was a big job. Then we had our biggest problem was toilet training. Now, we rented a house when we got there. They're up on stilts. And there was no toilets. So we had to dig a hole out there in the woods. Dug a hole. And then the Filipino boy that was helping us said, "Did you see the snake by the hole?" I said, "No." He said, don't tell the girls, they'll never use it. "Oh, we've already told them." So we had to dig another hole. We dug another hole between two branches so that we could sit on these branches comfortably. We got a bowler knife and, shaved them off real nice. But we didn't realize what kind of a tree it was. It's a tree that produced loads of sap. So all the sap came out. You sit on it, put toilet paper on it, you got all the sap sticking up there. Very difficult situation. Today, 30, 40 years later, 60% of those islanders are Seventh-day Adventists. The 1 year after we left, we had a new hospital, new church was put up in the next door village. There's loads of Adventist churches on this island now because of what we had done. The leader of that province, the governor, made a rule that all schools must teach gardening because we taught gardening. They weren't getting enough to eat. They had to get more to eat, so we taught them. We had our carabao to pull our plow, and we taught gardening. We did all kinds of tests. We did worm tests. They all had 3 different kinds of worms. They had hookworm. That meant we had to get into the shoe business. You got to wear shoes, otherwise you'll get these worms. But now, 60% of the islands are Seventh-day Adventists. The Philippine thing, we flew our students down to Cebu, where a Catholic doctor had his own hospital, teaching the people how to cook food for their babies that weren't getting enough to eat. They had a kitchen at the end of each floor to teach them how to do that. And they were raising money for each bed. Our children, our students, got to see malnutrition as it was overseas. They hadn't seen it. We'd heard about it in class, but they had never seen it. I didn't think you need to spend 2 years or a whole year studying public health. I thought you could do it in 4 or 5 weeks. I announced such a course. A dentist friend of mine across the street came, saw me as a faculty member sitting behind the desk. "What do you do here?" Good question for a faculty member sitting behind the desk. "What do you do?" I said, "I'm designing programs for our students to use. When they go out, they'll have a program to start with while they're developing theirs." "Well, why don't you let the kids do it?" People had no training at all, I said, "If you can get the kids, I'll do the course. If they'll let me do it." Then I went to our assistant dean. I said, "I have a problem here. I know we charge a lot for tuition, but here I'm going to do something here, and these kids aren't going to have any money." They said, "That's okay. Just call it you're doing an experiment. Then you don't have to charge anything." So I didn't charge anything. We had about 20 kids. I had to find a place to house them. I went to the Hill Church and got them to volunteer housing. I had two of them come to my home in La Sierra, and I housed them and fed them for the 5 weeks they were in this course. And these two kids, they came late at night. It's after 10 o'clock. My wife woke me up. Those kids are going to ruin your program. What's the problem? You ought to see their long hair. Those were the days, the long-haired kids would run to San Francisco, run away from home, go to San Francisco and everything. And it was a problem. These kids with long hair. I persuaded one of them to go get a haircut. They took that much off. Anyway, I was trying to figure out how to get them to drop out of the class. I decided I'd ask them if they had any chemistry. And if they hadn't, I'd say, it's too tough for you. You should drop out of the class. First boy came, have you had any chemistry? Yes, I've had 2 years. Next boy, he had had chemistry too. So I had to keep those. Now, we let our students, we had them have their breaks in their class between the times the regular students in public health had their breaks. So they weren't meeting each other in the hall. We didn't want the good-looking, good, cool haircut kids see the kids with the long hair. We don't want them mixed together. But it was a real problem because the pastor of the church, he proclaimed publicly that these people had sex problems if they wouldn't cut their hair. And so that was going around the community, and I had to handle all that. It ended up, we had 16 of those kids that banded together and went back south. South. I don't know where they were. They were around Baltimore area. First, and then they were told to come to Philadelphia. You come here. This wealthy man said, we'll pay all expenses. So they did. I went to see one of those fellows 2 years after he had graduated from that school. He hadn't graduated from college yet. They used his credits from my course, 5 weeks, to graduate him. He graduated as a minister. Some of you would probably know him if I named him. But I asked him, do you think this did you any good when he was old? He said, I can name for you 20 people we've baptized from our weight control program alone. It worked. Health brought people into the church. I had a trouble. You know, Adventists teach not to use meat. Now, a lot of Adventists use meat. It's not a test of church fellowship. But we recommend it. And I'll tell you why later, but we recommend it. But I've had so many interesting experiences with this. Story Proctor and I, from the General Conference, Washington, D.C. area, Silver Spring area, were invited to come to the Philippines to teach the whole division how to do vegetarian cooking in schools. We had maybe 200 kids, young people, 98% of who were not vegetarian. And we were to teach them how to do vegetarian cooking class. Story Proctor was not feeling well that night. He said, John, it's your night. So Abraham Carpina, the Adventist minister in charge, he came to me. John, you're going to have to tell people exactly how you feel about this vegetarian thing. We're in trouble because the leadership here are upset. There were conservative right-wingers in the church who knew the conference president ate meat. And so they were saying, don't go to an Adventist church. Have a church in your home. Invite the people to your home. What was I to say to these people? The division leaders want to know. I didn't have the least idea what to say. I picked up a book called Counsels on Diet and Foods. Ever heard of it? Counsels on Diet and Foods? Okay, that's Sister White's book, Prophet's book on diet, compilation on diet. I picked it up. I read it 100 times. Didn't expect to find anything new. I thumbed through the pages one at a time, slowly. Finally got to page 401. The Lord stopped my finger on one paragraph. That one paragraph said all I should talk about. It says, it's not a test of church fellowship to eat clean meat. If some prominent man eats clean meat, he's supposed to keep quiet about it, not tell everybody that it does it, and he's not to talk against the vegetarian diet. Third thing is, God is calling for his people to reform and be vegetarians. Now you're going to have all three groups in your church. You got to talk to all of them together at one time. That's what I spent the whole 3 hours on. I think I lost a lot of friends doing that because they weren't vegetarian. But tremendous experience I had on the meat-eating issue. I was at a camp meeting in West Virginia, and the president of the conference had my children up front to start with, and I was reading a Bible text for the Bible. I said, where am I reading from? Lois, she could tell me. Bob couldn't tell me, but he'd repeat the next few verses. They had memorized Daniel, memorized Revelation. They had memorized John. They memorized. Bob memorized James. They memorized all these books. They knew them by heart. I only did it the one time. I didn't think that was good to do all the time. Finally, the pastor said, I think you have a trick. I think you got signals with them. Let me try. So I gave him the Bible. He tried it. They knew where they were reading from. But I've had lots of fun on this business of the meat issue. I had Sabbath problems in the military a little bit. When I was in Taiwan, this new officer trying to change the day, ordering me to come to meeting on Sabbath. He knew I wouldn't come. He was going to put me in the brick. Okay? Well, he didn't, because all my officers agreed with me and voted on my side, so they didn't change the day. But I had all kinds of problems like this. I know for a surety the Lord was with me in all my health work. I can go through hundreds of stories like this where I knew the Lord was with me. I will be with you till the end of time. We work with him, he works with us. And I believe all of us are going to have experiences like this, working with people, helping them to follow Jesus in his directions. And I am thrilled with what he's done for me. Thank you.